Hi, folks. I'm Peter Lemieux with Rounding Third. I tell baseball stories, and I've got one for you today. It circles around the topic of the Baseball Hall of Fame. The Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown is where the best players who ever played baseball are enshrined. They have a plaque. Their name is there for as long as the Baseball Hall of Fame stands. These people will be remembered. And it's meant for the very best players. But because getting in there is so subjective, it's a place where we debate all the time. There are players in there who probably don't belong there. And there are a lot of players who belong there who are not in. And there's no real reason. I'm going to start off with an example that I want to show you on my whiteboard, okay? Let me just pull that up so you can see what I am talking about. In 2023, the Baseball Hall of Fame enshrined Scott Rowland into the Hall of Fame. This is not against Scott Rowland. Scott Rowland was a great ball player, played a long time, great fielder, really strong offensive numbers. The problem with putting Scott Rowland in the Hall of Fame, and I think all of you know this, there are other players who had similar numbers who were never considered. And I've got an example for you. In the 1960s, the St. Louis Cardinals had a third baseman named Ken Boyer. Like Rowland, he played his career with a team. The Cardinals were a good team. And Boyer was their third baseman, a major offensive weapon in their lineup. But look at his career numbers. This is the same guy. To me, they could be twins. Ken Boyer's not in the Hall of Fame. He did not get in the Hall of Fame. He died of cancer when he was 51. And the only way he'll ever get in the Hall of Fame is if the Veterans Committee puts him in. And that is the story of Scott Rowland, and a player I think is the equal of Scott Rowland who never got in, and I don't think he was ever seriously considered. So now to my story of the day. I'm going to talk to you about one player that I sincerely believe should be in a Hall of Fame, and he never got a sniff. How I came upon this is I remember in the 1990s when I would go out to lunch. In the fall, I would always go to a restaurant that had sports on. We used to televise playoff games during the day on TV. It's not done so much anymore. But in the fall, I would go out and for an hour, I'd watch whoever was playing. After a little while, I remember saying to one of my friends, you know, every year I come to watch this, does it seem to you like Kenny Lofton is always in the playoffs? He said, yeah. And I found out he was. So let's talk about Kenny Lofton for a bit. Kenny Lofton was fundamentally a great, great athlete. As a freshman in college, he played basketball at the University of Arizona. He was sixth man on that team that went to the Final Four. He was subbing in for the starting guard, Steve Kerr. By the time Kenny was a sophomore, he was the point guard for his final 3 years at the University of Arizona, where those teams did go once to the Sweet 16. He was a really good basketball player, but he was short. So when he was a junior, he thought, maybe I'm a good athlete. Maybe I can make my career in baseball. So as a junior in college, he played baseball at the University of Arizona. He was so good that the Houston Astros drafted him after he graduated from college. He was naturally a center fielder. He had great speed, great instincts, was a great fielder. But with the Astros in his rookie year, they just brought him up for a handful of games. So he really didn't get a taste. And then they traded him to the Cleveland Indians. And at the Cleveland Indians, we got to see the great player that Kenny Lofton was. Great fielder and a tremendous leadoff man. He could hit, he could steal bases, and basically wreak havoc for the defensive team because keeping him off the base was so important. At the end of his career, Kenny Lofton, and he played a long time, 16 seasons. His last season, I think he was 41 years old. And when he retired, his career average was .299. He usually batted over 300 when he played. He stole 622 bases, which is 15th most in the history of baseball. And his success rate was close to 80%, 79.5. When he was 40 years old, Kenny Lofton stole 23 bases. Okay. Gold Glove winner 4 times. The WAR ratings for center fielders put Kenny Lofton as the 9th best center fielder of all times. Okay, that's just some really impressive numbers. But now to my story. Do you know in those 16 seasons, Kenny Lofton made the playoffs 11 times. 11 times. Let me just tell you how that happened. In 1995 and 96 with the Cleveland Indians, they made the playoffs. In fact, 95, they went to the World Series, and Kenny was their leadoff man. He left the Indians to go to Atlanta, and in 1997, the next year, Atlanta's in the playoffs. In 1998, Kenny returned to Cleveland. Listen to this. 98, 99, 2001, he was in the playoffs. He missed 2000. Then he went to San Francisco in 2002. You got it. He was in the playoffs. The next year, he went to the Cubs. They're in the playoffs. And the next year, in 2004, he goes to the Yankees. And wouldn't you know it, Kenny Lofton is leading off for the Yankees in the playoffs. He skipped 2005 in the playoffs, but in 2006, he went to the Dodgers. You got it. Kenny's in the playoffs. Returns to Cleveland in 2007 and is in the playoffs. In his 16 seasons, Kenny Lofton played in the playoffs 11 times with 6 different teams, although he did make the playoffs with Cleveland the most times. He did get to the World Series twice, didn't win either time. Bill James said that Kenny Lofton was the fastest player and the best bunter of the 90s. Joe Torre, he said that in 13 years, Kenny Lofton was in the playoffs 11 times. And this is what Joe Torre said. He bounced around a lot of clubs for a reason. They felt he could help them, and he did a hell of a job. Do you know that Pedro Martinez, Hall of Fame pitcher, said that the hardest batter he had to face was Kenny Lofton? Now, that says something. We got a great fielder, a great batter, a tremendous base runner, going and winning no matter which team he's on. So you would think at the end, when Kenny finally retires, having played, get this, 95 postseason games, he would at least be considered. His first year for consideration in the Hall of Fame, he garnered 3% of the votes, which means he was not eligible to be voted on again. And after one bad vote, Kenny Lofton has never been mentioned as a Hall of Famer, and like Ken Boyer, will never make the Hall of Fame unless the Veterans Committee reconsiders it. So here's my point. We all have a player, maybe several players, that we know in our hearts belong with Scott Rowland in the Hall of Fame. I've made my point for Kenny Lofton. I want to ask you guys are very smart. You always give me great responses. Tell me your player. Tell me why he should be in the Hall of Fame. I have a feeling I'm going to get a long list of deserving players. And one of the reasons this is coming up is Scott Rowland, his numbers are not over the moon. We're not talking about a 330 hitter with 500 home runs. There are a lot of really good baseball players. If we're going to put Rowland in, we have to reconsider. So please tell me your picks. As always, I really be appreciating if you like and subscribe. It's how we get more people in the club, okay? So all you fans of Rounding Third, glad to have you with me. Now I'm waiting and anxious to hear your thoughts on who should be in the Hall of Fame. For all of you, I'm wishing you a great day, and I'll see you the next time around.